Breath of the Wild introduced a lot of awesome concepts that'll forever change how we foresee future installments. But as incredible as this game is, there's a few things about it that don't live up to the rest of its glory. The gameplay as a whole is a massive leap forward. For one, the way enemies react to the player feels a lot more natural than it used to. However, the boss and enemy variety isn't the best, but the few that are unique are some of the coolest foes we've ever faced in the series. Today, I'll simply be ranking who I enjoy fighting the most, so anything from Calamity Ganon to a Bokoblin is eligible for this top 10. What's up my homies, it's Edible Incredible. Let's waste no time and get to number 10. The Rebelled Warriors of the Sheikah, the Restless Yiga, debut in Breath of the Wild with only random appearances around the overworld, until you stumble upon their banana-filled hideout. Their clan uses two distinct types of fighters, the taller and much more powerful Blade Masters, that wield swords with the ability to fire out beams of light, kinda similar to the Master Sword, and the more elusive Foot Soldiers. They use a vicious sigil to do their dirty work in hunting down the princess and her hero. They're known to disguise themselves as normal Hylians when attempting to get an upper hand in combat. A pretty unique enemy, especially in terms of well-developed motive and backstory. However, they don't serve as much of an interesting fight compared to other enemies in my opinion. The Foot Soldiers in particular die in one hit once you have decent resources. The Spectral Wizards marked their 11th introduction to the series in Breath of the Wild, but these Wizrobes come in 3 elements: fire, ice, and electricity, and all 3 have a variant: Meteor, Blizzrobe, and Thunder Wizrobe. Once you find out each type is vulnerable to a specific element of arrow, they become a piece of cake. But still, I find evaporating an ice Wizrobe with the fire arrow much more satisfying than killing a Yiga Foot Soldier in one hit, for example. And I love how they can spawn enemies of their specific variety, it just enriches each encounter. But I have to say, my favorite Wizrobe that I've went up against is the one from the Wind Waker, creating a Dark Note with ease so ridiculous. The Breath of the Wild version may not be the best Wizrobe incarnate, but its addition gives the game a much needed boost to its lacking enemy variety. The Rock Abomination of Hyrule, the Stone Talus, is another new foe to the series. Its concept alone outwits most other overworld enemies, literally. They're a great source in gathering raw materials. Early on, defeating these beasts give you the opportunity to start off with a bunch of rupees, since the stuff it drops usually sells for quite a bit. There's also a Frost, Igneo, and Pebblet version of the Talus. I'm eager to see if Nintendo will evolve this idea of climbing to defeat monsters in the future with more enemies or bosses. I think it's a great introductory mechanic for this Link's new if they continue to allow us to scale anything, that is. The agile lizards of the Zelda series returned for a 4th time in Breath of the Wild. The Lizalfos are probably the most clever among the generic enemies in this game. Their audacity to quickly run up on you in groups can pose a pretty big threat for our hero, and the way they spit at you while they're in water is so damn frustrating. But their intelligence is what makes them engaging to confront, even when they make you start over and draw the sword. The Mammoth of the Gerudo Desert, the Moduga. Technically, this is its introduction to the series, but we've seen similar creatures just with different names, like Mogura and Twin Mode. The Moduga slither inside the sand in search of vibrations above. This is how you can trick it into hopping out. Bombs prove to be an easy way to do so. I like these tubby worms so much because their confrontations are usually pretty spontaneous. You never really know how it's gonna play out, especially if you're riding a sand seal. On a cool side note, you find out during the medicinal Moduga quest that their guts act as a cure to a rare disease. The ancient war weapon of the Sheikah, the Guardian, was shunned along with the rest of their tech 10,000 years ago. Then 100 years before the events of Breath of the Wild, the royal family decided to dig up these machines to combat the second calamity, triggering Hyrule's collapse once Ganon seized control of this machinery. The Guardian was the first enemy we saw in the world of Breath of the Wild, way back in the first teaser, which established a foundation of the game's story, and what a handful of the enemies would resemble. There's 6 types of the Guardian: the Guardian Stalker, Guardian Turret, Guardian Scout, Guardian Skywatcher, Decayed Guardian, and the Century. Parrying one of their lasers is still such a righteous feeling. As you all know, I friggin' love the human embodiment of Ganon. So as I charged the Hyrule Castle for the first time, I was beyond eager to see if Ganondorf was behind this mess. Sitting in that throne as always, ready to give a 10-minute speech about his rise to power. Was I way too hopeful? Well, maybe not anymore. The demonic physical form of the Calamity hatched from a cocoon in the castle's sanctum, although it wasn't able to establish its intended goal of transforming into a more complete shape, resulting in a spider/ant monstrosity fused with Sheikah technology. We've seen plenty incarnates of Beast Ganon, but nothing like this. Maybe not the most anticipated final battle compared to others in the series, but it's definitely one of the most unique. It has a fairly decent moveset as well, encompassing a majority of the Blight's techniques. And now that we know Ganondorf could be the brains behind its creation, it makes this brawl all the more juicy. Falling down with the Calamity is probably my favorite cutscene in the game. The music here,
oh god, it's so good.
the Sheikah Monk of the Underground and final Divine Beast, Monk Mas Koshia. 120 times before this, the monk at the end of each shrine would give us a spirit orb, but this time we're granted with one of the craziest boss fights. Everything that any Yiga clan member had, and then some. This Sheikah clearly hasn't lost its touch after being in this hibernation state for thousands of years. It can increase its size as well as duplicate itself to hide its true body, and finally discovering that body is so fulfilling. For a game lacking in distinctive bosses, this was the way to conclude its DLC. And the reward for beating Mas Koshia is probably the best prize we've ever received for beating a boss. For how epic this clash is, the two I ranked above it, I just feel are even more of a Breath of the Wild staple. Nothing against the pure ridiculousness of this monk battle. As much as I adore the physical form we got for the Calamity, there's one of its blights that outshines all the others. The electric and swift Thunderblight. This blight was able to end the life to badass Rebosa. That's when you know this thing's hot. For one, I love how unorthodox the room is you face him in. Adds a nice natural layer to this clash. By far, my favorite thing about Thunderblight is how quickly he can teleport at you. Timing a backflip right as he flashes in front of you is satisfying as all hell. Especially later on in the fight when he covers his sword and shield with electricity, forcing the player to time a parry rush instead of just swinging at its shield until it breaks. It's the smallest blight but bears the greatest enjoyment I got out of all the game's bosses. An excellent conclusion to the toughest Divine Beast. And number one is definitely the Choo-Choo. Just look at it, it's cute as hell, dog. The fearsome centaur of Hyrule, the Lynel, makes its 6th appearance in Breath of the Wild. They're spread across the overworld with 5 different variations. The red-maned, blue-maned, white-maned, silver Lynel, and golden Lynel. Their moveset consists of breathing fire, shooting absurdly accurate arrows, charging, jump attacking, spin attacking, creating massive explosions, and it can friggin' teleport. Taking one on is a great benchmark to see how much you've progressed with Link. Breath of the Wild has made my all-time favorite Zelda enemy easily the Lynel, and the weapons they drop are among the best in the game. It's just so gratifying to slay these devils. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. This was such a weird top 10, but fun to put together. Let me know your favorite enemies and bosses, and as always, don't forget to stay hype!